Division. Splitting something into equal parts, which is the result of fair sharing. Division very often happens when you deal with brothers and sisters. Everyone wants their fair share. There are three parts to a division problem. The dividend, which is the amount being shared or the amount being divided. The divisor, which is the number that you share with or the number you divide by. And the quotient, which is the answer to the division problem. And if you see, there's little musical notes here, which means Missy has a song for you. I'm going to save the song until you've learned the location of these division parts. So, how do you write a division problem? Well, this problem says 50 divided by 4 and can be written 3 different ways. Using the division symbol, 50 divided by 4. Using the fraction bar, which is sometimes written like this or sometimes to a slant. 50 divided by 4 or 50 divided by 4. And it's most commonly written like this when you are using a computer or you're using a cell phone or something and you're writing this division problem. Electronically, it's mostly written like this, but we very often use this for our fraction bar as well. And then the long division bar, 50 divided by 4. Now, let's go back to those parts and identify the 50 in each one. This is the dividend divided by the divisor. This is the dividend divided by the divisor. And this is the dividend divided by the divisor. Notice that I said the words the exact same way every time. The dividend is always first. So we can think of it as the dividend is in a race with the divisor, and the dividend always wins. You're going to win this race if you're traveling in this direction, because you started first. And if you're traveling in this direction, the dividend is going to win. In this one, the dividend is in the den. He won by so much that he's in the house, and the door is shut because the divisor was last. The song I promised you is to the tune of in right, out right, up right, down right, happy all the time. Inside dividend, outside divisor, up top quotient, dividing all the time. Inside dividend, outside divisor, up top quotient, dividing all the time. It helps you with this kind of a problem because very often students read this the wrong way. So if you can remember the dividend is the winner and the dividend is in the den, then you would read this 50 divided by 4. Now, let's actually do the math. Here is 50 divided by 4, written 3 different times, but this time the only thing that's going to change is the remainder. In the past, when you have solved a problem 50 divided by 4, your answer may have looked something like this. Remainder 2. Well, writing it as a fraction means that you think about what this problem looked like when it was in this form, 50 divided by 4. And you solve it just like you did. 12 times 4 is 48, and I have 2 left. But this is written as 12 and 2 what? Well, the what is answered with the divisor. So you could say 12 and 2 fourths. So now my remainder has a little bit more meaning because I'm talking about fourths. The last thing you can do with a remainder is write it as a decimal, which means that you can't write it as fourths or fifths or sixths, but you can write it as tenths or hundredths or thousandths, because those are on the place values chart. So we do this again, and we have 12 times 4 is 48, and we have 2 left over. Having 2 left over means that now we go to tenths. which if this were $50 being shared with 4 people, we would each have $12 and there would be $2 left over. But what happens if we trade those $2 for 20 dimes? So now because we're in the 10th place in our dividend, we're in the 10th place in our quotient. So we could each have $12 and 5 dimes. So division problems can be written with remainders in elementary school. We are not going to write division problems with remainders anymore. You can write them as fractions, or you can write them as decimals. And for this unit, we're going to focus on decimals. Let's do 3 more problems written with remainders as decimals. Listen to me as I talk through this using place value terms. If I am sharing 100 with 4, I don't have enough hundreds, so I trade those hundreds for tens. And now I have 12 tens, which means that I can give each of those 4 people 3 tens. When I give them 3 tens, I won't have any tens left over. And now it's time for me to figure out the ones. I have 5 ones. I can give them each 1, and that means that I will have 1 left over. Having 1 left over means I now must trade it for tenths. 1 whole is the same as 10 tenths. So each of them would get 2 tenths. And those 2 tenths would then turn into 20 hundredths. And so I have divided, and my remainder that was all the way up here of 1 has turned into 25 hundredths. Now let me erase this one. And let's do 111 divided by 5. Again, listen as I talk through the place value of it. Because I have 100, I do not have enough, so I trade it for 10 tens, plus I have this one. So now I am holding 11 tens. Each of them are going to get 2. I have 1 left over. I trade it for 10 ones, plus the one I already have, and now they're going to each get 2 ones. Instead of saying I have a remainder of 1, I am then going to go into the tenths. And I am going to give them 2 tenths. The most important thing that you should be noticing is because I added a decimal 0 to the dividend does not mean I've changed the value. It only means I've made finding the quotient more precise. All right, one last example here. 100 I cannot share with 2, so I will trade it for 10 tens. Combine it with the 9 tens I already have, and 19 tens is what I'm sharing. Each of them would get 9. That would cost me 18 tens, and I have 1 10 left over. Trade that 10 for 10 ones, and have 13 ones. I have 1 left over, which means that I'm going to trade it for tenths, and 10 tenths means everyone gets 5 tenths. Now, this was done with traditional division. If you use subtractive division, I've made a video just for you that is a paper slide of how to translate subtractive division into division with decimals. Now it's time to show what you know. Divide each of these problems and write your answer as a decimal. 930 divided by 4. If I have 9 hundreds, I do have enough to give 4 people each 2 hundreds. And I have 100 left over. That 100 I'm going to trade for 10 tens, combine it with the 3 I already have, and now I have 13 tens. At this point, I can give them tens. Giving them 3 tens means that I have 1 10 left over. Giving that 1 10, I'm going to trade it for 10 ones. I'm going to give them each 2, and I have 2 ones left over. At this point, because I've left over ones, I'm going to trade them for tenths. And 20 tenths means each person gets 5 tenths. Let's look at the next one. 652 divided by 5. Yes, I have enough to give everybody 100. I have 100 left over, which I trade for 10 tens. Combined with the 5 I already have, I have 15 tens. Everybody gets 3 tens. I have these last 2 ones that I need to share, and I do not have enough for them to have ones. So again, I am left with 2 ones, but I can break those 2 ones into 20 tenths and give everyone 4 tenths. Finally, 426 divided by 6. You may ask, is this a decimal answer? Well, all numbers have an understood decimal at the end of the whole number. So indeed, this passes for a decimal answer. It came out even. You don't have part that you need to share smaller.